Valley. This is an area on the outskirts of Sarnia, Ontario. And if you look up at the top of the photograph, there's some treat areas. That's a reserve of the Aamjiwnaang First Nation. They live within a 20-kilometer radius of that reserve are 60 major industrial petroleum refineries, polyvinyl chloride plants, petrochemical facilities. It's really quite a horrifying situation. This is, according to the World Health Organization, the worst air quality in Canada. Health Canada has done studies that demonstrate that this small community has highly elevated rates of childhood asthma, elevated rates of childhood leukemia, elevated rates of birth defects. There was a peer-reviewed study published about 6 years ago which found that there was actually a skewing of the birth, of what's called the birth ratio. There was articles in the popular media by where all the boys got because something's going on in terms of the contamination of people that's resulting in a skewing of the normal 50-50 ratio. And so these are people who, I went on a tour of this area 4 years ago, and I have to say it was one of the most heartbreaking things I've ever seen, that a place like this could exist in a country as wealthy and supposedly well-educated and compassionate as Canada. There are, the two people in the center of this photograph are Ada Lockridge and Ron Plain, who are members of the Aamjiwnaang First Nation. And they've actually stepped up to the plate with the same kind of courage that Beatrice Mendoza showed. They filed a lawsuit against the government of Ontario and Suncor because of an approval of increased pollution from one of Suncor's refineries. The other people in this picture are lawyers and scientists with the environmental law organization called Eco-Justice. This is a real David and Goliath struggle that are currently embroiled in preliminary skirmishes about the admissibility of evidence. And it's going to be a multi-year process. Right now, the federal government of Canada, in fact, over the past 10 years, has spent an average of between $7 and $10 million cleaning up the contamination of the Great Lakes, which is, there are many areas of the Great Lakes that are heavily contaminated. That's the legacy of industrial pollution. So compare $1.3 billion a year in a country like Argentina and $7 to $10 billion in a country like Canada of much greater wealth, and you see that there's an enormous disparity there. And the fundamental difference is that Beatrice Mendoza has a constitutional right to live in a healthy environment. Ada Lockridge, Ron Plain, and the rest of us do not.